Hi everyone, today is Saturday, day after Good Friday, and tomorrow is Easter Sunday. So I wanted to share a little bit with you about Saturday. Today's passage is Matthew 27, verse 62 to 64. It says, "The next day, that is, after the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, 'Sir, we remember how that impostor said, while he was still alive, after 3 days I will rise. Therefore, order the tomb to be made secure until the third day, lest his disciples go and steal him away and tell the people, he has risen from the dead, and the last fraud will be worse than the first.'" This is the word of the Lord. When I was supposed to go watch a movie or eat somewhere, a new place, I always think, or I always ask if I can, does it live up to the hype? Some places and some things are so hyped up that when you go experience it, it's just not as good as it was promised, not as good as everyone said it was. And when it doesn't live up to the hype, it's so disappointing. And so I always try to manage my expectations whenever I try something new. See, Saturday must have been a tough day for the disciples. They had these big expectations of Jesus, and they were very disappointed, most likely, because even with their big expectations, they had just witnessed Jesus' suffering and death, and they probably had a lot of questions like, what happened? Did I miss something? Is this it? Maybe they even thought, I gave up everything to follow Jesus for this? In fact, maybe disappointment is an understatement for what the disciples felt that day. And if we're not careful, disappointment can lead to isolation, depression, even bitterness. It is fertile soil for Satan to come and sow the seeds of resentment, to pull us away from the truth of the gospel. And some Christians call today Low Saturday because nothing happened. Good Friday, there was the crucifixion and the death of Jesus. And then tomorrow, Easter Sunday, there is the resurrection and Jesus defeats death. But today, there was a lull in the activity between Good Friday and Easter Sunday. And so they call it Low Saturday. And maybe for you, you feel like it's been Low Saturday in your life for a very long time. There just isn't any activity, no spiritual activity going on. Maybe you just feel far away from God, or you feel that God is just silent. Maybe you have that feeling of disappointment, of loneliness, isolation, because there's that expectation that God is going to move and answer, but you don't hear anything, you don't see anything. I'd like to share with you something Max Lucado wrote, famous author, pastor, and he wrote, "God will not leave you alone in your struggles. His silence is not his absence. Inactivity is never apathy. Saturdays have their purpose. They let us feel the full force of God's strength. Had God raised Jesus 15 minutes after the death of his son, would we have appreciated the act? Were he to solve your problems the second they appear, would you appreciate his strength?" And I think that's a very insightful and pertinent question for us. If he were to solve our problems the second they happen, would we appreciate his strength? I have no idea why God lets us sit in Low Saturday for a while. But let's spend a little bit of time reflecting, a minute or two reflecting, and just think back upon God's faithfulness. Even though I may not have the answer to why God lets us sit in Low Saturday, what I do know is that God has been faithful before. He is faithful now and will continue to be faithful in the future. So can we make that our prayer? Lord, help me to be patient. Help me to remember your faithfulness. Help me to trust you even when you're silent. Help me to have faith in you and trust you on Low Saturday. And let's pray for that patience.